Class. So tonight's subject is sources of investment information. You have a number of readings. The readings are in depth, so I'm not going to recover what's in the readings in a great deal of detail, but I do want to talk about each of the three primary sources of data and how they are, the reliability, the timeliness, and the relevance of each. So the question is, what are the sources of information available to you? Well, there are SEC sources, that is the Securities and Exchange Commission. This is the EDGAR database. You've got readings on these sources. There are company sources. You can go straight to the company. Most companies that are publicly traded are going to have an investor relation website. And then there are third-party analysts. They're people who follow companies who are paid to analyze them and provide either to the public or to a dedicated platform, or sometimes just to an individual team, their opinion on the company as an investment. Then for each of those sources, we're going to look at how you evaluate them. Is it reliable? That is, can you trust the information? Is it relevant? That is, does it provide information that is is going to inform your decision as an investor? And then timeliness, how current is the information and how often is the information updated? So let's start by looking at SEC sources. This is the EDGAR database, EDGAR. You have a link to it, so you can go straight to the EDGAR database. You can use either the ticker symbol or the company name to search for the financial information for any U.S. publicly traded company, that is traded on a U.S. exchange. There are any number of documents, and you've got a full article describing the different kinds of reports that you might find about a company on EDGAR. There are three primary reports that you're going to be looking at. There's the 10K. The 10K will include the audited financial annual statements and a discussion from the management team about what they feel like those audit financials say. The management team will talk about the industry. They'll talk about changes, anything that it's critical that's happened in the company's financial life should be discussed there. That's the 10K. The 10Q are the quarterly unaudited financials. So these have not been verified through an audit process, but they are giving you an update on the financials. Typically, they'll look at the financial position more recently than the annual report. And then there's the 8K, which is updates that the management feels like they either have to by regulatory requirements or feel like they should update the investors of pertinent information. Beyond that, you'll see in your reading that there are any number of other reportings, some optional, some required, and those may be relevant as well. There are too many of them to go over all of them. There are literally dozens and dozens of other kinds of reports. But everyone will have a 10K, and really before you invest in any publicly traded company, you should be pulling and reading their 10K report. So in terms of reliability, SEC sources, the audited financials are independently verified. That's of course what audited means, as you all know. And then the management's opinion is subjective. Now, it is subjective of people who are experts in their field. They know the company better than anyone else, but still it's ultimately an opinion. Is it relevant? Yes, it's highly relevant. The audited financials give you a true state of where the company's financials lie, and it is directly applicable to the desirability of the company as someplace you'd like to invest, or perhaps someplace you would not like to invest. The 10K, the annual report, obviously is annual, so it means that at any given time, how old it is depends on what part of the year you happen to check the report. If it's really very close to a year old, obviously the more recent it is, the better, but you may be looking at information at any given point that is approaching a year, or maybe with reporting lags up to a full year old. Company sources, that's the second way. So the first one is SEC sources. The second is company sources. Every publicly traded firm is going to have some sort of investor relations, oftentimes for a company, investor relations will have its own website. The kinds of things you're going to find on here, again, go back to the audited financial statements. You should see a balance sheet. You should see an income statement. You should see a cash flow statement or cash flow analysis. And then you're going to have management discussion and analysis. This is where the management tells you the similar information that you would have on an analyst call or an annual call with investors. The management is going to give you their opinion about what's happened. Again, all this information is highly relevant. It is annual, but it may be retrospective. So depending on how old the information is and how long the information has been posted, the information will continue to be posted even if it passes the year mark. There may be newer information or better information available, but the company sources are generally a great place to look. So you'll see other versions of the company's annual report, which will also provide information on impact, their relationship with the community, their other valuable pieces of information that are likely to be better and likely to find in the investor relation website. Third-party sources. So these are analyst reports. Analyst reports are sometimes available to the public. This is where someone has been designated as an analyst that is covering a stock. So say we're talking about Regions Financial, there are going to be analysts that are charged with following regions. So what they do is they go to the SEC sources, they go to the company sources, they go and they get all that information and other kinds of public information. They look at the industry, they look at competition, and then they write an opinion. Well, it's a report that has a combination of objective facts and ratios, but it also has a great deal of opinion in terms of how good an investment is that company at any given time. Now, is it relevant? Well, not quite as relevant as the company or the SEC sources. That is, what an analyst says about a stock is ultimately their opinion, and information changes generally faster than analysts can react. So is it relevant? Yeah. Is it as relevant as the company source of the SEC? No. That is a company that just got devastating news today and the stock is in free fall. If you go look at the analyst report very well say everything's fine, because last week when the analyst wrote the report, everything was fine. Which gets us to the timeliness piece of it. Analyst reports are dated. That is, it's going to tell you when the report was prepared. You can always go back and find analyst reports from prior years and the year before that. Just understand that you need to check the date on the analyst report to make sure that if you're going to use the analyst report as a reliable source to make an investment decision, how old is it, when was it made, but all those reports are dated. So when an analyst is hired to follow a company like Regions, they can make that information public. They can make it information available just to a particular trading platform. So for example, you open an account with Merrill Lynch or Charles Schwab, you're going to have access to their internal research. So there may be analyst reports if you have an account at Schwab that you can find that you would not necessarily be able to find in terms of the public. And then some analysts analyze just for their portfolio managers, just for their team. So their work, they do the same kind of analysis, but their analysis only goes to a small internal team and it's not publicly available at all. So there's a great deal of discussion in your reading about the kinds of conflicts of interest that can exist with any kind of third party, but particularly with stock analysts. So make sure that you read everything from a stock analyst with a grain of salt. And it occurs to me, if you don't know the expression to take something with a grain of salt, it means look at it with a skeptical eye. So whenever you read an analyst report, make sure that you take the time to figure out why the analyst may be holding that opinion, whether they're trying to achieve something. If the analyst's own firm, for example, is underwriting a new stock issue, you might want to look twice at that analyst report and make sure that the conflict of interest isn't skewing their perspective on the company. All right, thanks, and I will do all the readings, do the quiz, and I will see you in class.